Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's Dee. Welcome back to Spiritually Speaking. I have the beautiful Jane back with me today, and we're going to just chat about whatever comes up in this organic conversation today. Jane, what have you been up to since we saw you last?
Oh, well, thanks for your last podcast, actually. I've spoken to many, many animals. It's been awesome. And yes, some really, really interesting. And I suppose we were talking pre-recording, you know, not logical stuff that's coming up and things that are happening. And yeah, the world is even more beautiful than it was before. Each and every day I'm constantly surprised at things that happen. But yeah, living in a beautiful world. Australia is about 100 degrees at the moment, 90% humidity.
Wow.
It's really, really hot here, and Mama G is really purging right now. So we've got fires over in Perth, and we've had really bad flooding here on the southeast coast, a bit higher than me. We've had a cyclone. So yeah, Mama G is angry with how we've treated the world. So she's purging a little bit. So that's been very interesting. Watching how the energies have changed within the world has been incredibly interesting. I think we're in for a lot of planetary activity over the next few months. So I think it's hold on to your pants because it's going to be a big one. I think we're going to see. Oh, I'm very goosebumpy. So there you go. I think it's going to be. I think we're in for some big shifts. So
Yes.
yeah, I've had some really, really good feedback on our last video, and I've had some beautiful animals to speak to. I've had some really, really interesting and honestly amazing results. And just this week, I had a call from a lady that I spoke to in New Zealand who'd watched our podcast. I put it on a group that I was on in Telegram, and she came and asked me to help her with her cat, who was basically, I think you'd put in human terms, as self-harming. She was pulling all her fur out in great big clumps. She was full of anxiety. She'd had a bit of a traumatic um, kitten life. She'd lived with a family, but she'd been gradually pushed out when the family got bigger, and so she'd been adopted by this beautiful lady who was just wanted to make her better. So went in and I released her trapped emotions, had a little chat with her. We altered her diet a little bit, watered down the biscuits so that she wasn't itchy, but also gradually just taking them away. But that's still happening. Anyway, she sent me a picture of her on the 29th of January. I actually put it on my Facebook page, my business page, and her fur. You can see a picture of her fur gone on the 2nd of January, and you can see it on the 29th where it's all grown back and
Wow.
she's no longer pulling out her fur. So, I think things like that, when you get results like that, you know why you're doing this job. You
Yes.
know, often I sit back and go, wow, can I really do this? Oh my goodness, this is amazing. How am I able to do this? How do I know this stuff? And you do question how you know it, why you're doing it.
Hmm.
Well, not often. I don't actually often question why, because I know it's for the animals, but you just ask yourself how this has happened, how I'm in the situation I'm in, and how this is going on. And it's actually perfectly obvious when you get results like that. You're here to help the animals. You're
Yes.
here to help humanity. You're here to ensure that those animals are the happiest that they are, and that you can give some comfort to the owners, to help them with their issues around their animals as well. So, whilst sometimes you don't get instant results, and that's where you know that you've got a challenge, you've got to look at it. This is where you grow. You know, um, it's not always easy. I've got another animal that I'm working with every single week. She's got PTSD. She's
Oh, wow.
been dreadful, dreadful start to her life. So badly abused, I can't tell you. And she has PTSD. And that, we have layers upon layers upon layers of emotions that need to be released. And she is making, whereas the cat made progress almost immediately. This dog is taking some time. I've now been working with this dog for 3 months. And each week I go in and there's more to release and there's more to talk to her about. But her owner tells me that we've made massive changes in those weeks. There's still such a long way to go, right? So that's my challenge. That's how I grow. That's if I was able to go in and release them and they were immediately okay all the time, I would never learn. And I've learned so much from this dog. So
Wow.
it's very interesting. It's an interesting journey. Yeah, an interesting journey. And never ceases to amaze me, really. So it's fun. It's really good fun. And I love it. I just love it. And I love that, that there are people that out there that question what I do, and then I'm able to help them, and then they turn into a world that's different to the one that that they knew of, the one that is so not controlled, but so you do things this way, this way, this way. You don't question anything, and then something comes along, and I'm able to do that. That's very, very different. And suddenly they're going, okay, well maybe everything is not as cut and dried as you think,
Right.
So I think that doing that as well is changing people's lives, right?
It
Mm.
is. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And again, that's our
Mm.
animals being our teachers. And
And
I
that's
know we
yeah.
talked about this in the first episode that we did together, how some people don't believe animals have souls. And it's absolutely mind-boggling when you see things like what you're doing taking place. Like
Mm.
if animals
Mm.
didn't have souls, then how could that happen? It's so
Very much so.
incredible.
It really is, because they are here to teach us, and everything that happens is really, is divinely aligned.
Mhm.
We know that. We know that, there's a reason they've come in and they've chosen you as their owner. There's a reason for it. There's lessons to teach, and as they leave, there's lessons to teach there.
Mhm.
I've had a couple of friends who've lost their animals recently. One lady, I had her animal came to where I work, had been found as a stray, like he'd been wandering, and we got in touch with the owner. Thankfully, I put it on the site. The owner contacted us. She came and got him. He was 18. He was blind. He was deaf.
Aw.
But he's her best friend, and she loves him so much. And then she contacted me yesterday to say her son had accidentally not shut the door properly, and he'd got out yesterday and
Oh,
run across the road and been hit by a car.
oh,
And unfortunately, he passed. Now, how do you explain that, right? How do you explain that? There's lessons there. Yeah, yes, the child will never forget because he left the door open, but that's not his fault. That's how he learns, right?
right.
Um, she's like, well, I only got him back 2 weeks ago, and I said to her, well, maybe if you look at it in the way that was you, because he'd gone missing for about 3 days. That was almost preparing you
Hmm.
for losing your baby. Now, if that cat had not been found and come to us, he'd have gone to the pound and they'd have probably put him to sleep. But they
Right.
didn't. He came to us, we found him, he went back to her, and she had 2 more weeks of knowing how much she loved him,
Hmm.
and then she lost him. Now, a lot of animals choose to go that way because it's better than having human intervention.
Hmm.
you know I can't speak to him for a little while because he'll be transitioning and he'll be doing what he needs to do to rest now. But you do question it, don't you? Of course you do. Well, why did that happen? Why should it have happened? But
Right.
if you leave it and you let it go and you try and heal from it, suddenly there'll be an obvious reason as to why that happened at this time in this place. And it's so hard to see at the time, but it's true,
Well, and
and I've spoken.
what came to me as you were talking about it is now she doesn't have to make that choice for him. you know,
Exactly that.
doesn't have to,
Exactly
because
that.
that choice has already been made now.
Mm.
And that's a
Yeah, and
hard
I've had a few
choice.
friends.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a really, really hard choice, isn't it? And I've had to do, I've had it both ways. I've come home and found one of my animals had passed, and then I've had to make a decision on the other one and have the human intervention, which would why I prefer, well, neither, of course. I want my
Right.
animals to live forever, but I'm
Right.
also accepting that they can't live forever. But you know, it's different for each animal, and it's different each time it happens to you, because each time you learn a different lesson from it. And I'd like, words of comfort to this lady for me yesterday was, this has happened as it's supposed to have happened. And just know that I did some reading up a while ago, and I can't remember who I read it by, but somebody had actually spoken to an animal. It's another animal communicator who said the soul pretty much leaves the body before the pain hits.
Mm.
And they say that, years ago when witches were burnt at the stake and that sort of thing, their soul actually chose to leave the body rather than go through that pain. So it was just a human vessel that was left. They'd already left the body. So, I like to think, and until I speak to the animal, I like to think that when they leave their soul leaves the body before any pain hurts them. Um, so, it's an interesting journey for each of these animals, and they will come back. And I've actually done a lot of work recently with animals that have passed over.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I could do that. I didn't know that I could speak to animals that have passed over. I mean, each day is a learning curve, right? You just never really know. Um, but I had a really beautiful, beautiful scenario just a couple of weeks ago with one of my friends whose beautiful dog. It was her time. It was her time to cross. She needs, she was old. She'd done her thing. She'd done her lessons. She taught her lessons. And my friend said, "Well, we're going to book her into the vet because I can't watch her go any more downhill. It's her time. I know it's her time."
Mm.
And she said to me, "Will you be there energetically?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I will. Absolutely." Still makes me quite emotional now. Um, and she got her to the vets, and they were waiting outside before they called her in. And suddenly she proper perked up, and she was looking for something to eat in the car, and she was walking around the car park. And my friend contacted me, and I was with her at the time. I was connected in with her, and she was very calm, but she was quite jovial. And she said, "Oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?" And I said to her, "Well, what you're doing right now is for her. If you cancel it, it's for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think about that.
Right.
What is the best for the animal? Because actually, if you take her home, you're taking her home for another 2 days and watch her get deteriorate a little bit more. That's not for her. That's for you. That's for your comfort." And she said, "No, no, no, you're right. You're right." Anyway, she said to me, "Can you be with her as she leaves?" And I said, "Absolutely. Like, that I'd be honored to do that." So I was with her, and I could feel her being stroked, and she was being stroked by the vet apparently as I was feeling it. And then all of a sudden, my guides came in and said to call in her friend. And Obi had been her friend for many, many years and had passed across a couple of 3 years ago. And I was able to call her in. And I could feel her like tapping, like she was banging her feet, and she was going, "Come on, old girl, come on." Like she's just waiting for her friend to cross. And it was just so beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment,
Yeah.
and then I felt them connected, and then they just disappeared, because there's that transition point that, and I heard her say, "I've got so much to show you," and they'd gone. But how beautiful that
Yeah.
moment was for me. I mean, I was so incredibly honored to be part of that, but also give that comfort to my friend and her husband
Mm.
and her children, that
Yeah.
she'd crossed so peacefully and she'd gone home, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, perfect. If there is a perfect moment in there, it's a perfect, you know, that was probably as perfect as it could get, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I think even as humans, we're afraid that we're, you know, a lot of us, not all of us, we're afraid that we're gonna cross over and there's nothing. No one there to greet us, nothing, just nothing, you know. And so for you to be able to witness that beautiful moment and be able to share that with the
Mm,
family that she crossed over
mm.
peacefully, and hey, now she's exploring with her friend. Her friend is taking her and
Yeah.
showing her where everything is and
Yeah.
what to do
What she's
and
got
all
to
that.
do, and she's
Yeah,
yeah, and
that's
she's
beautiful.
resting, and she'll be back in a couple of weeks, and she'll be we'll be able to contact her, and we'll get those moments of clarity, questions that still need to be asked and answered, and but in time. But to know that, and I've spoken to a few spirits in the last year or so, as in the human form of spirits, not animals, who told me that, when you do leave Earthside and you walk home, there are people there to greet you. You
Yeah,
are always greeted by your loved ones, whoever they
yeah,
are. And I find that so beautiful. I love that. I just, because I had to watch my mum pass, which was incredibly, um, well, it was as it was always supposed to be, I suppose. But in those times, it was confusing. I didn't know what was going on, and it was the first time really that I'd had to deal with something so close to home. But I just remember that the nurses saying to me, because we nursed her at home, but one of the nurses came in to do her to give me her tablets, and she said to me, "You'll know because often they reach for the stars. They call it they reach for the stars, like their whole body comes up and like holds out, like they're pulling at something, and they call it that, but I actually feel that it's them going to their person, their loved one, the one that's waiting the other side for them. Yeah, and I think it's the same with animals.
hmm
And how lovely for I'd like to think that when it's my turn and I leave Earthside to go home, that my animals are waiting for me,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
because that's beautiful. They're just there waiting. Yeah, so it'd be amazing, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. I just love spirit. You and I were talking about this one in our pre-chat, how much I love it. Spirit's just so amazing
Mm,
and so creative and just is able to let us see everything. And I think, you and I were also talking about how, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, actually, about how we question ourselves and we
mm,
like, are we making it up? And I think that that's a sign of someone who really is for real, because if you come across people who don't question it ever and they just feel like they know everything all the time and there's never a question mark
mm.
there, then that's a little bit frightening to me. But
Yeah, I think
also,
it's a little bit arrogant.
yeah, but also I think we need to realize that, because this just came to me the other day, I just had this like epiphany. We are spirit, you know?
Yes,
We
we
are
are. Yeah.
spirit. And that's how we can connect, because we are that frequency. Our soul is that frequency. The only thing that isn't is this human body, and that's what allows us to be able to experience the things that we experience, the touch, the taste, the being able to feel our pets fur and feel their kisses on our face and stuff. If we didn't have the human body, we wouldn't be able to experience that stuff, because spirit
That's right.
experiences things in different ways.
Mm, mm. Yeah, definitely. And I think, the veil is, I'm hearing so often now, the veil is so thin between
Yeah.
them and us, between that world and this world, that we're almost all together. The timelines are squashing down, the realms are squashing down,
Yeah.
and the veil is really thin. And so it's so much easier. Like, every single day I'm learning every single day that,
Mhm.
if I feel this or I feel that, I know what this is, I know what that is, and I try every single day to be authentic, and just for people to realize that I'm as amazed at this as they are. You know, I love that I'm doing this, and I said this on my first podcast with you, that I'm this tiny little thing at the end of the road. You know, I'm at the end of the line. I've got all of this beautiful team. I've got a wonderful healing team that come in and show me how to heal the animals, how to do what I'm doing. And every single night before I go to bed, I say thank you.
Yeah.
Because I'm the thing at the end of the line, that I'm the person that's giving the information, but I'm receiving that information. You know, I'm a channel. That's what I am. And that's my journey this lifetime. My sole journey this lifetime is to help humanity, whether it be with the animals or the humans. And I think as I evolve and grow, I think I'll always talk to the animals because that's my passion. But I'm sure that I've got another journey, I've got another mission, that, you know, and there's another job for me to do. And that will reveal itself in time.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm also feel so protected by them now. You know, I feel so that this is my journey, and this is what I need to do, and this is how it'll work. And I just have to trust that.
Yeah.
And trust and know that I will be guided where I need to be guided, when I need to be guided, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
you know, and the learning from it. I know we spoke about this pre-recording, and I'm sure the lady who I did a podcast earlier this week where I was going to do some live readings, and there was just static. I could just hear this noise continuously on the podcast. And I thought that that was a natural noise. And again, you know, a whole learning curve. So we've done a whole hour, tried to connect with some animals, and it was quite hard. I connected with them, but it was quite hard. And I was able to say what I needed to say. And we came off the podcast, and she's gone to edit it, and the static is awful, just so bad that that we're going to have to redo it. And the first thing that I knew as soon as she told me was that I was not meant to read those animals live. That was not what I was supposed to do. So I was stopped. We were stopped from doing it.
Yeah.
And so you know, and it wasn't a comfortable situation. Like it was very much out of my comfort zone, because I do that here in my house. With the photo, I can connect. It can take time. You know, there's a lot of pressure when someone's actually sitting there going, "All right, you can talk to this dog about." You know, there's a lot of pressure. So it's very much out of my comfort zone. But I had no understanding that actually that it would be stopped. But it was, and I believe that it was stopped by spirit, because it wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't comfortable, and we weren't supposed to do that. And I know that there's I actually spoke to my mentor last night, and she said to me, you know, there's a lot of mediums out there. There's a lot of people that do a lot of energetic work that won't do that around electricity. They won't record. They'll make you take your watch off. You know, they won't do anything that interferes with the channeling. And so I think there was a bit of that as well. You know, that feels very right to me. So we will redo it, and we'll redo it without doing any live reading. Because it just wasn't the right time, the right place, and the right thing to do. And so you have to listen, you know. Next time, if I did it again, who knows, I might blow it up next.
That would be something else, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness. Your spirit guides are like, you better listen, Jane.
Yeah, listen to me. Listen, I'm telling you, this is how it's going to be. So, you know, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting journey when you trust.
It is. So I have a question for you. When you spoke to her before you recorded, y'all had planned to do the live reading, right?
Yeah.
So before
she's
you
gone out and
recorded, did you get any information from your guides saying or hinting at that you shouldn't do it?
No, and it was quite strange, because it was Tuesday morning here at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'd normally have been meditating or exercising, and I didn't do any of those things. And so it's all a bit of a rush. And I didn't when I connected, I found it really difficult to connect. um and I think that there was a telltale sign. I'd already I'd got the animals before because she'd chosen the people that were interested, and she'd sent them over to me, and I'd connected with all of them to make sure that I could. I'd had a little chat with each of them. And interestingly, I spoke to you at some point before that. One of the animals, I opened the email, and it was just like whoosh, there she was. And she was very much supposed to speak to me, because the lady chose her last and went, oh yeah, okay, I'll send her over as well. And she was very much supposed to speak to me, because as soon as I spoke to her cat, her mum and dad came in and spoke to me as well. So there was a real reason for that. And every time I open her email, I literally get whoosh right through me, real goosebumps, knowing that there's a real connection there. So I had actually spoken and connected with each of the animals. So I knew who they were. And I had said, I will connect with you on this day. They don't take any notice of that. But actually, the connections were really weak, and they were really hard to connect. I did it, but, having spoken to them 2 days prior, that was so much stronger.
Right.
So it just, when I look at it afterwards, I think what I feel is it was a lesson for me. There was no warning. It's a lesson. You're not supposed to do this. This is not how you do this. So, this is what you need to do. So they didn't come in and go, no, don't do it, because, I'm the sort of person, well, I've already agreed to do it. I'm going to have to do it. What do you say? You come onto a podcast and go, oh, by the way, I'm not going to do that. So they didn't come in and warn me. But, the static, like, I'm sitting here talking to you and it's clear as a bell. But when I was talking to her, I could just hear this
Amazing.
And then she muted herself at one point while I connected with this animal. And I was like, oh, it's all quiet. And I said to her, oh, it's really quiet. And she said, is it not normally? And I was like, no, there's a noise. So yeah, very interesting. Wow. As to how that happened. But what was more interesting, I think, was the fact that she actually said, when she came back and said, oh, the static is really bad and you were really quiet, I was like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to do it.
Right.
Just mute it, instead of going, oh, well, that's really bad. Your software must be, what's the matter with your software? Right. It was just like, no.
Right. We know it's not the software, not in this case, right? So do you find that animal spirits are a little more shy, like to be in the public eye, so to speak, than human spirits? Because I know a lot of mediums that speak with human spirit do, TV shows with like thousands of people in the audience, and spirit comes through like nobody's business. Like they're all like, me, I want to be in the spotlight. So do you feel like it's different with animals, and they're like, no, I don't want to be in front of all these strange people that I don't know? Is it?
No, I don't think it was that. I think it's more about me. And I feel like it was more about my experience at that time, because, I have only been doing this a year and a half, and I think I wasn't feeling comfortable enough to do it, and it wasn't my journey to do that. I think that the animals, because I've actually had clients where I've spoken to them like I'm speaking to you now, and their animal has been here, and I've been able to connect with them. So I feel like it was more about me and my ability to do it. Like, maybe in a year down the road, they'll be happy for me to do it, because the connection will be bigger and stronger. As you know, I'm having problems at the moment with my ears, because I've had a dreadful ear infection for like 3 months or so now, that just doesn't want to leave me. So the fact that, and I think energetically, there's clearly something I'm not listening to, or I don't want to hear, or whatever. So there's always an energetic meaning behind something that's physically happening to you as well. So, having spoken to my mentor last night, and she said to me, the fact that you're still connecting when you've got, this going on is really fantastic. And I think maybe with all this going on, I'm trying to connect with 8 animals, or six or 8 animals, which is really a huge amount of animals, which is just too much for me,
Yeah.
and they knew I wasn't ready for it. And
Yeah.
I accept that, because this is a
Sure.
learning curve, right?
Yeah,
For all of us,
absolutely.
for all of us. Yeah. And so you just have to go with it and just go, right, okay, well, this wasn't the right time. This is not the right place. And let's do it another way. So, I'm going to connect. We're going to redo the podcast. I'm going to connect with the animals here and make some notes, and we're going to talk about that. And, because actually it doesn't really make any difference, because it's recorded the same way as this is recorded, and the life the live stuff is only happening whilst we're recording. Like the clients, the owners aren't there. I'm going to have to go back to the owners anyway. So, the fact that I'll connect with them at home means I can probably tell them a little bit more as well anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I find it fascinating that that happened, and I'm so happy that you listened and you felt that and you paid attention to it, and you were like, no, that's not what I
Mm,
meant to do right now, and honoring your place
mm,
where you are right now. I think that's so important. I think
mm.
some people forget to do that and want to keep pushing, 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 and sometimes we have to just take a step back, take a breath. Maybe there's something else going on that we aren't quite aware of at the moment, that will reveal itself
Yeah,
later.
yeah. Yeah, and there might be another reason for it that I'm not aware of. I haven't asked the question. It's been a bit of a crazy manic week this week, and I feel like maybe I was just pushing it too much, and it wasn't my right time. And I'm not up there with Nikki, for example. Nikki Allen's been doing this for many, many, many years. She's had this gift for such a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not as confident as she is. Maybe, well,
I was going to
no,
say,
that's
I
probably not
think
the right
you're
word, but
there.
not as
I
experienced.
believe
Yeah,
you're
not as
there, but the
experienced.
confidence level, because we haven't been doing it as long, and I'm learning that confidence myself. I actually
Mm,
just found a couple
mm.
meditations today that I will send you that
Oh,
that are
great. Thank you.
just for that. So that's so curious that word came up, and then I just remembered, yeah, I have a couple, and I'll
Mm,
send those to you so that you can do them as well, because
yeah,
they're pretty cool. But I'm not going to talk about the whole story, but you helped my friend Jessica
I
with
did. Yeah.
her dog that was unfortunately
Beautiful
crossed
girl.
over. Yeah. So
Yes.
she was really,
Yeah.
really grateful, her and her family, because she has 3 girls, and they were all just so grateful to you
Mm.
for the help that you gave them and the peace that you gave them.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was ready. She wanted to fight, but she knew she was ready. And she was a beautiful, beautiful girl. What a
Yeah,
lovely girl. And there was and that, when you can give someone that sort of peace, that's why you're doing what you're doing. When you can make someone feel like the journey that they're on, and the decisions they've got to make are the right decisions,
right.
then that's when you really trust. And I think a lot of what we're doing, and I know both of us, you and I, are both, even though we're on different paths, we're on the same journey. um Learning to trust yourself, learning to get out of your head, be in your heart,
Yes,
learning to trust. And it not just trusting yourself, but trusting the information that you're getting
right.
is an experience, and it's just something that will build and build and build in time.
Yeah,
And you know what I've done in the last year has astounded me. I look at my business page on Facebook, and I see the reviews, and I'm like, wow. There is, like, so many hundreds of animals that are much happier because of the work that I've been able to do. So,
right.
when something like this happens on Tuesday, where I'm being stopped. I know that I have to trust that, and I know that I have to accept that that's the right move for right now, because I still can help all these animals, but it wasn't supposed to be that way, and
Right.
it will be in another way. And this podcast will still go ahead, and it will still be great, and I'll still be able to talk about the animals that I connected with. I just wasn't supposed to do it live.
Right. Right.
Maybe that's my journey in 20 years, right? I could be on TV in 20 years' time,
It's
and they'll go, oh,
it's
she's been
gonna
doing this for 20 years.
I'm telling you, Jane, I'm so excited to be here at the beginning of your journey so that I can have you back on periodically so we can see where you've come and we can all grow together. To me, that is like the funnest part of this
Yeah.
whole thing. And I think that too when I watch back mine and Jessica's episodes together. I'm like, man, I can't wait to look back in
Mm.
like a year and see how far we've
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
And because it's absolutely amazing. I'm not new at this, but I'm new at putting myself out there in this intentional way. So that
Mm.
piece of it is
Yeah.
new for me.
Yeah.
And it's different.
Yeah.
I watched back the podcast that Jessica and I just did this week, and I thought, it seemed like we were very like methodical about some of the things that we said, but I got to thinking about that and I thought, why is it? Because we're so comfortable talking to each other about it when we're not on camera, right? But the thing is, we don't use those words. You know what I mean? We don't use
No.
clairvoyance and all of that stuff. We don't talk that way. It'd be like me handing you a daisy and telling you this is the scientific name. This is the Latin scientific name for this daisy. I don't call it that. I call it a daisy.
No.
It's
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
when we talk about things, we talk about them in an organic way that's not going, well, my clairvoyance and
Mm.
my clairsentience was in full swing today. We don't say that. So having to break it
No.
down and say those things where people can understand what they mean, because people are curious and I get that. But I forget that the
Mm.
things that I experience even have names like that. Like I don't even think about it because
Yeah.
it's just been happening to me
Yeah.
for so long.
For
So I
so
think,
long. Mm.
yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun when we do this again in 6 months or so
Mm.
and see how you're feeling about things then. And if
Yeah.
you actually were able to do a live reading in that amount of
Yes.
time or.
Yeah. And I do think that will, it's a live reading on a podcast because I can do them when I have clients, but it was just on the podcast. And I feel like as I'm talking to you, it's because there was so many animals. There was just too many, I think, maybe.
Many, yeah.
But it's quite funny because after our first podcast, a lot of my friends watched it back, and a lot of all my family, and they were all like, "Wow, this is really interesting." And this is you've been, you talk very naturally. And I said, well, me and Dee are very connected, and we kind of found each other, and we've built a friendship as well outside of this. Um, and there was this big joke. I go to this coffee shop on a Saturday morning, and I told the girls, I go with my bestie and her dog, and we're always there every Saturday and Sunday. And I told the girls behind the counter that that's what I did, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to be on TV. You're going to be so famous." And I'm like, "Oh yes, let me give you my autograph." And we sort of laugh about it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I came home. I'd done my vision board for this year, and where I want to be and what I want to be doing, and my yoga and the love, and just peace on earth and all of this. And I got this beautiful vision board, and I went onto my computer that night, and I was just playing around with images and stuff, and all of a sudden this image came up of a TV show, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to put that on. I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to put that on my
Yes.
vision board. You know, one day in 20 years' time, when I've been doing this for so long, there's my TV show.
Yeah. I
How-
honestly don't think it's going to be that long, Jane. I really don't. I mean, like I said, you're there. You're there. It's just the
yeah,
confidence level
yeah,
that has to kick in, and you're just
confident.
getting your feet under you, so to speak, about it. But you have that connection. I mean, that's completely
Yeah, I do.
apparent,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes, yes, definitely. And the more I meditate and the more I go back into my childhood and you know, my younger years, I can see where I closed it down now, you know, and that so as I'm growing, I can see where it's all come from.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting too. And you know, doing that journey of healing the trauma that you've been through yourself, and you know, understanding where that came from, understanding what you've learned from that, understanding why you were put in that situation, and how you got out of it, and how you've grown, and you know, and how you can make peace with it. So you know, I look at myself 4 or 5 years ago, and even before I came to Australia, and I was so incredibly angry. I was so frustrated. I was so, you know, very much in victim mode. You know, oh, woe is me. Why is this all happening to me? And, you know, with that healing and the learning and the journaling and, you know, okay, this is happening to me for a reason, and accepting it, and knowing that every time that comes back, that trigger comes back, and you heal from it and you learn from it and you go, oh, I know why that's coming now. I know why that's here. And then you can move on again, and you're lightening yourself up, and you're leaving yourself more and more space inside you for the love and the peace and the joy. And that's where you're opening yourself up to spirit as well. So, you know, that's all coming in too. As you grow, as you learn, as you can let things go, you're opening your space up more, I think. You know,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
it can only get better from here, I feel, you know,
Yeah.
and every time, like I've had a bit of a rubbishy week this week. There's been some stuff going on that I'm like, oh, why? And then I look at it again, I go, yeah, all right, that's the reason why. So okay, let's move on from that now, you know.
Yeah.
Let's see it for what it is, let's see it as a lesson, let's move on from that, you know. And that's and it's not always that easy. You know, I can go into victim mode just as easily as everybody else. Well, why is this
Oh,
happening to me? Why is that weird?
I
Why have
just
I
had
had
a
an ear infection for 3 years?
right. And I just had a day like that too, not, not too long ago. And I
Yeah,
talked to my mentor about it, and he said, you have to be ever vigilant. You have to allow it to teach you instead of getting all emotional about it, which is what us humans are really good at.
yeah,
Allow it to teach you, just pay attention. And next time you feel that, just recognize it. He said, because that's the key, is recognizing it. But don't recognize
exactly
it and
that.
then
Yeah,
annihilate yourself over it. Recognize it and then allow it to teach you so that you can actually
yeah,
shift that pattern. Because when we get emotional about it and then we beat ourselves up and everything, then we ensure that we're going to have to go through that again so that we get the lesson the next time. So if we want
yeah.
to stop
And
getting the
you know,
lesson, we have to get the lesson.
exactly that, exactly that.
Yeah.
And you know, each time that lesson comes back, it's a little easier for you to recognize it, and you deal with it, and then you move on again. And
Yeah.
eventually, you know, none of us are ever going to stop healing. None of us are ever going to stop dealing with this stuff. And it's just how you can deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And you know, my boss laughed at me the other day because there was something that happened, and I was like, I'm just going to go and sit in my car and scream. And he was like, why? Like, if I scream, then I won't get angry. And he's like,
Right.
okay, then off you go.
Let
So
it
I did.
out.
I went to my car and sat in my car and just screamed. And I was like, oh, you know, because we're human. As
Yeah.
much as we're connected spirit, we're also human. And, you know, I say this to people all the time. We chose this journey. We chose to come here. We chose this journey. We chose the lessons.
Yes.
Each and every time we come here, we've chosen this, and we're
Yeah.
here for a reason, right? And you know, once you've realized that, and it's taken me a long time to understand that I chose to come here and do this at this time, that um now I understand that when things happen, I can deal with them from that point of view, rather than, oh, why is this always happening to me, you know,
Right.
oh, woe is me, poor me. And yeah, I spent a lot of time in victim mode. You know, I'm going to stand up and take ownership for that. And none of us are perfect. We've all got lessons to learn. but it's how we deal with them. And I think now that I deal with them in such a different way, you know, I will come home, I will journal, I will sit in my car, I will scream in my car, I will let it out, I will meditate. And then, you know, it's made my life and me as a person so much calmer, so much happier. You know, I can see things with love and kindness now.
Yeah.
Whereas years ago, I couldn't, you know,
Yeah.
and that's been a journey. So watching that journey and watching me evolve on that journey has been really interesting. So, you know, watching what I can do with the animals and spirit is going to also be very much more, you know, very interesting in as the years roll by. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I love it. I get a blip every now and then with animals, but I'm more connected to the human spirit, which is, and it's kind of curious, isn't it? That some people connect more with animals and some people connect more with humans. Do you have any thoughts on
Mm,
that at all?
mm. Well, I think it's your passion, it's your soul journey, isn't it? Like, you know, for me, animals have been my world since I was a little girl. You know, I've always adored animals, and I've always, from the day I've got my own house, I've had cats in my house, and you know, it's been very rare that I haven't. And you know, my friends know me as the crazy cat lady. So I think that's my passion. But you know, I get humans too, but just not as many. And whether that will evolve in time, I don't know. Because, you know, I know like someone like Nikki, for example, she can do both. And I don't know if I've read both her books, but actually, I think for her, it's always been humans, but the animals sort of came along. Whereas for me, it's been the animals and now humans are coming in. So,
Yeah.
you know, like with the cat last week, as soon as I opened my email, I was there. I was connected with the cat. The cat was talking to me,
Hmm.
but then the client's family came through, and you know, I actually emailed her and said, "Hey, look, I've got this message. Does this mean anything to you?" And she was like, "Oh my goodness, yes." So you know, I think I believe that we're given what we're given at the time because that's what we can cope with, and then you know, it's a gradual thing after that. And
Yeah,
that, you know, you grow, you then open yourself up to more and more, I think.
that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Mm.
And I just have to tell you, you are positively glowing. Like your aura is so big right now. It is. And it's so like it's so interesting that this is happening right now because I just talked to my friend about this the other day. I said, because she asked me about auras, and I was like, I could see them when I was a little girl. I remember, and I said, and
Mm.
this part's really funny because like I was raised Pentecostal, so none of this stuff was okay with Pentecostal people. But I remember sitting on the pew and watching the people walk around the platform and just being mesmerized by this person has a green glow around them, this person has a yellow glow around them, this person has a red
Wow.
glow. And sometimes if they got more like passionate about what they were doing up there, I could see the aura actually expand and then go back in. I could see all that. And I told her that just recently I've started being able to see some of that again, but I don't see it all the time, but I see it around you so strongly right now. So
Really?
yeah.
Well, it's really funny you say that because in the first podcast, when it was released, a couple of my friends watched it and came back and said, "Oh my goodness, your aura was just there was this big white aura around you. You were just
Yeah.
glowing." And
Yeah,
I
it's
went
white.
to look and I was like, "Yeah, no, I can't see it. No, I can't see it." But very soon after that, I did actually start seeing very occasionally I can see aura around people, but not, you know, not anywhere near where you guys are at all. But, you know, they could see that around me on the first podcast. So when we release this one, it'll be interesting to see it this time. And
Yeah.
in actual fact, as I've literally just as I've sat back, I can see it. I can see it around me. So
Yeah.
that's really
It's
interesting.
really
Like,
strong. Yeah.
yeah,
Ooh, I have
like really
goosebumps
white.
everywhere. Oh my gosh.
Indeed.
Woo, I don't know what all that means for you, but that's good stuff right there. I love it because it's so
It
strong.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Well,
welcome.
it's been another wonderful podcast. I really love
Yes.
being on here. I
I
feel like we're just having a little nap,
I
you know?
know. I love it too. I'm looking forward to, I will definitely be having you back. We'll do this periodically because I know people love you. And the more they see you, the more they're going to love you and they're going to have you connect with their
Yeah,
animals and you're going to have more people and animals to help. And it's going to be an amazing, absolutely
that'd
amazing
be so
thing
cool.
because
So
it's
cool.
just
Thank
so beautiful. Do you have anything
you.
that
It
you'd
is.
like to say before we get off here?
No, just thank you. You guys know where I am. If you need to contact me, I'm Pure Soul Chats. I'm sure Dee will put the links at the bottom again. Anybody that's connected on Dee's Spiritual Awakening subscribing
Spiritually speaking group.
Facebook, spiritually speaking, that's the word. Yes, that's it.
Yep.
If you contact me through that, you get 10% off anything I do.
Well, there
So
you go.
yeah, and mention D. And
That's
yeah, we'll go from there.
that's
If I
awesome.
can help you guys, just let me know.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. So if you're not in the spiritually speaking group, I will be dropping that link in the description box below this video as well. We would love to have you join our beautiful community over there. It's growing every
Yes.
single day and people are participating and we're getting to know each other. And you will know things first if you come in there because we'll post all of the little goodies and we do tarot readings in there sometimes and everything. So it's a wonderful community and a great place to be. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe so that we can get this out to everyone far and wide so they can know all about Jane and the beautiful work that she does. And thank you, Jane, for being
Thank
here with me today. And we'll
thank
see you
you. And
again
thank you for
soon.
the natter.
Oh, you're,
See you again soon.
yes, you're very
See you
welcome.
later.
And always, I love y'all.
See ya. Bye.